Hello everyone. In this very session, we'll talk about access modifiers. All right. See, there is this keyword, public, protected, private, and default, which are heavily used across with all classes, method, data members, variables or inner classes. All right. There is one more access modifier which is called as default, which internally is called as package private. In total, there are four access modifiers. Okay, these are nothing but keywords in Java also. But first, let's understand the basic definition of access modifiers. All right, if someone asks me the definition of access modifier, then what should I reply? This is the first thing. All right, see, access modifiers defines the scope. All right, it defines the scope of your of your class, of your method, of your data members, your variables, of your inner classes. All right, whether other classes or other packages or other jar files or other projects can access the class, the method, the data member or the inner class of, let's say, one particular class of your class. All right, they define the scope. All right, so if I give you a brief idea before giving you the example, see, public, as the name specifies, public keyword or public access modifier gives all kinds of access, gives read, write, execute, all kinds of access to all packages, to all jar files. So when we say open source, basically all the jar files or all the class files that are there as part of that open source project is available to everyone. All right, for example, I say Eclipse is a open source environment. It's all programmed in Java. Spring framework, it's all programmed in Java and it is open source. So all class files, when you go and check it, they all are public. So if you are creating a abstract class, or if you are creating a helper kind of a class in your project and you want all the programmers of your project should get an access to that very public class, to that very class, you basically decide to keep this very keyword, public keyword, with all those you know classes, with their data members, with their methods, with their inner classes. All right, so that is what public does. So if I basically categorize four access modifiers into four different parts, what is that? See, in general, we have, you know, a single package where I want to access things, or if I want to access things outside the package. Remember, I told you the definition of a package, that it's the namespace. It's the folder structure. It's kind of a directory structure in your project that basically carries your class files, carries your properties files. All right. So either you are interested in knowing whether that very access modifier, if I, let's say, talk about public, and here if I mention access modifiers, all right, whether that is, if I put a public keyword or public access modifier with that class, method, variable or inner class, whether that can be accessed within the package or outside the package. All right, or outside package by subclasses only. When you introduce the concept of inheritance. Okay, so it has a very specific meaning in Java based projects. All right, I'll tell you about that also. And one thing is very obvious, that how everything works within the class. So I can be well assured of the fact that all keywords, whether it is public, private, a default one, which is also known as package private, okay, and protected, they all four access modifiers basically, you know, can be accessed within the class. Because, you know, what is the use of writing a method or a variable or inner class if I can't access that very, if I can't access that very functionality within my class? Okay, so Everything works within the class. The point is what works within the package, what works outside the package, what works outside the package by subclasses only. All right. So when I say public, I can access that class, method, variable in a class within the package, outside the package, outside package by subclasses only. I can access that anywhere. When I say private, I can access that within the class. I cannot access within the package, you know, other classes within the package. Forget about outside package or forget about outside package by inheritance. I can't do that. All right. So, and when I say default, it can be accessed within the package, but it can't be accessed outside the package. So when you have a functionality limited to that very package, for example, when I'm writing the cards, debit card or a credit card kind of functionality in retail based application, all kinds of cards work separately, independently, differently from other cards. So there, one functionality should not interfere, intermingle, and there should be consistency. So one functionality is restricted to that very package only. And there is a very small difference between default and protected. Protected also works within the package, it works within the class, it doesn't work outside the package. But when I say inheritance, when I say child classes, it does work. All right, so protected is for hierarchy. Protected is for child classes. If you go by a literal name, you have protected the functionality, the data members, the method for child classes to use. All right, so that is how a chart looks like. Now we will create examples to understand whether the points that I have put over here, whether they actually apply to that very access modifier or not. So first thing first, there are two levels in my Java project where I can apply this concept of access modifier. The first level is a class level. With the class level, I can have public or I can have default. See, internally default is also known as package private, but I can't have private or protected. These keywords can't be placed with the class keyword, with the class. These are illegal modifiers for a class. A class can't be private or a class can't be protected. Why? Because why will I create a private class? I could make a private functionality, could private method, private field, encapsulation can be there. Singleton design pattern might have been implemented. Okay, data hiding might be going on. In a bean, no field is declared with any other access modifier apart from private. So it has a very good meaning, but protected also cannot come with a class. And if you simply go by a keyword that can go with class, basically those are either public or abstract or final. These are the only three legal modifiers with a class. Package private or default is when you don't mention anything. Whereas when you say a method, when you say a method, with methods you can have all four access modifier. You can have public, you can have private, you can have protected, okay, or you can have default or package private. You can leave it empty also. All right, so this is a kind of overview what exactly we are going to see as part of programs. So if I want to implement the same concept, what I'm going to do, let's say I create a new package just to understand, you know uh, just to understand access modifiers. So I'm just creating this new package. Under that I'm creating two different folder structures or two different packages. So first is the, I'm simply creating folder one to understand one particular kind of functionality, and I'm creating another package with the name folder 2 to understand the second type of a functionality. Okay, so I'm going to create a class A in folder 1. All right, I'm going to create a class B in folder 1. All right, and I'm going to create class C and D in folder 2. So basically these are two different packages. Alright, so just to understand, I've created these four classes under two different packages. So in my class A, right now the class is public. As I was saying that with class I can't write private. I'll get an illegal modifier error. You can see illegal modifier for the class, only public, abstract and final are permitted. Similarly, if I try to write protected over here, I'll get the error message. Again, an illegal modifier. Remove illegal modifier. Quick fix is available. If I click on that, it will go away. Alright, so a class can be default also. When there is no access modifier, it basically means default or package private. Okay, now let's say I have a public class. I've got a public variable or a data member whose value is 10. I've got a public method whose job is just to display the value of this data variable. Okay, and I've got a main method. Okay, in the inner classes module 7 section, I have explained how inner classes, nested interfaces, static and non-static inner classes. There I have again picked up the topic of access modifier to relate to how inner classes works as far as access modifier is concerned. So right now, if I just create an example in my class D, okay, just to access this method or data member, since this is non-static, so I created the object called the display method. It will print the data variable value for me. Alright, so it printed the value for me successfully. Now, if I would have gone to other class in the same package, it would have worked absolutely like it was working in its own class, because it is public in nature, because the variable is public, because the method is public. If I go to different packages, here also if I simply copy paste the code, I just have to import that class file like how every project does, but it will work absolutely similar to how it was working in its own class. If I run this piece of code here, it will work absolutely similar to how it was working in its own class. Alright, this is how public works, and that's why I was saying that public is public. It is available to every functionality within class, within package, within outside package by subclasses, and within that class. That is needless to say. And when I say outside package by subclasses, here if I would have extended the class D where I have actually implemented the piece of code, there also it will work absolutely fine. Then also it will work. Right now inheritance concept is there. Okay, my next concept is for private, right? So when I say private, it only works within that class. All right, so here the moment I will make, see, I can't make private as a class. I can't choose that very access modifier with a class, but if I use private with data member variable, or if I choose private with method, it will work within the class absolutely fine. There is no problem as such. All right, private is for encapsulation. In the further sections I have explained why private is used. In Spring Framework Advanced Java section, there also I have explained what bean is. Private access modifier play a very vital role there. Alright, but the moment you make fields private, methods private, everything will stop working outside the class. The method is not visible. Change the visibility to package private. Here, default, because it is asking for within the package. Here, it is asking me to change to public because I have gone outside the package now. It is not visible anywhere because it is private. So that's what I was saying in the beginning, that as far as private access modifier is concerned, it is only visible within that very class. All right. So that's how package, package this private access modifier works. And the moment if I make it as default, I mean, and if I make a class default, the class will be able to access within that same package, but outside the package now I am not able to access the class also. So that is what default keyword does. When you don't keep anything in front of variable or fields, it by default becomes default or package private. Now let me just make public for a while, just to see how how this default access modifier works. Alright, so now the data member, the method is all default or package private. Package private means this functionality is all available to this very package only. So here there is no error as such. If I run this piece of code, you know, it is working perfectly fine for me. But the moment I go outside the package, visibility problem. The method is not visible, change to public. The method is not visible, change to public. And if I make a class also default, now the class itself is not visible. Earlier at least the class was visible because the class was public. Alright, so it could not able to relate to this very class also. This is what default or package private does. That's what I was saying in the chart also, that package private works within the class, within the package. Alright, but outside the package or outside package by subclasses, it doesn't work. As far as protected is concerned, it works within the class, within the package, and in subclasses also it works. How can I check that? So if I go to my original class, if I make it protected this time, if I make my class protected this time, and just to see how it works outside the package, let me make my class public. So within that same package, everything is working perfectly fine, like a default, like a public. Outside the package, if there is no concept of inheritance, I'm getting that visibility error, change to public. But the moment I say I extend it, that visibility error is gone. Alright, so what I need to do over here is, since I am extending from the child class, I'm extending in the child class, all I need to do is create an object of a child class and then access the method. Since it is for hierarchy, for the child classes to use. So protected works for child classes. If you just understand this in English also, you have protected the functionality, helper class functionality, abstract functionality for your child class to redefine it or use it, because it is widely used across my project. Alright, but here if I try to create an object of a child class to try and access the data member, I'll get that error message. Or class B, you know I'll keep getting that error message because the concept of inheritance is not there. Okay, I'll keep getting the same error message that it is not visible. But here it will work because the concept of inheritance is there. And the moment I remove this concept, I'm back to that same problem like I was getting for other classes, and that's in the different package. So protected works for child classes to use. Alright, this is what I was saying for protected access modifiers. So they define the scope, they define the visibility, whether other classes, other packages can access the field data members, methods, inner classes of a particular class or not, whether you have given the access to them or not. Alright, it has a very larger significance in Java based project. It's a small concept, but it is very necessary that I learn this concept from the very basics, that a class can only have three legal modifiers. In module 3 I have explained abstraction, in module 6 and 7 I have explained final keyword. With method inner classes you can use all four depending on your requirements. Everything works within the class. All modifiers work within the class. As far as public is concerned, whenever you are interested in making an open source project, you can do that. Private is only within the class. Package private or default is within the package. Protected is within the package and subclasses only. Okay, this is what access modifier are in Java based project. Thank you.